Imagine if, for the next 21 days, the voice in your head became your biggest ally instead of your worst critic. Not someday, not next month. Starting now, we've all heard that what we say to others matters. But what we say to ourselves, that's what defines the trajectory of our entire lives. Because every time you talk to yourself, you're casting a vote for the kind of person you're becoming. So, let's ask the bold question, what if you chose to speak to yourself like you matter? What if every day, for just 21 days, you said the words you needed to hear? Not from the world, not from social media, not from broken voices of the past, but from the future you, the strongest version of you, calling you forward? Body of the speech, most people live their whole lives never realizing they are in conversation with themselves every second of every day. And those conversations, they shape your confidence, your courage, your beliefs, your decisions. But here's the hard truth. If you spoke to your friends the way you speak to yourself, would they still be your friends? We call ourselves failures when we fall. We question our worth when things go wrong. We label ourselves with our mistakes and doubts. And then we wonder why success, peace, and fulfillment seem so far away. You want to change your life, change your language, tell yourself, I'm not behind, I'm building. I'm not lost, I'm learning. I'm not weak, I'm working. I'm not broken, I'm becoming. This isn't about lying to yourself, it's about telling the truth with intention. The truth is, you have survived everything so far. The truth is, you're not stuck, you're being shaped. The truth is, your mind is listening, and it will believe whatever you repeat. So repeat strength, repeat resilience, repeat hope. For 21 days, say to yourself every morning, I am not defined by yesterday. I am created for today. I will grow. I will give. I will go further. I am capable. I am valuable. I am becoming who I was meant to be. Say it out loud. Say it until your voice doesn't shake. Say it until your habits begin to align. Say it until you walk differently, think differently, show up differently. Because the real transformation doesn't begin in the gym, in your job, or on your social feed. It begins in your head. It begins with your voice. It begins with a decision to talk to yourself like someone who matters. We often underestimate the power of the voice inside our own head. That internal dialogue, so constant, so familiar, can either become our greatest asset or our most destructive enemy. What we say to ourselves in moments of doubt, struggle, and even success carves the pathway we walk every single day. When challenges arise, it's not the opinion of the world that determines whether we rise or fall, it's what we tell ourselves in response. The words you speak internally are not harmless. They're the blueprint of your self-image. Every thought you entertain, every judgment you make about yourself, and every label you silently wear becomes a piece of the puzzle that builds your identity. The world can say you're not good enough, but if your inner voice fights back with belief, you stay standing. On the other hand, the world could applaud you, but if your self-talk is rooted in self-doubt, you'll still feel like an imposter. Think of your inner voice like a coach. A great coach pushes you, encourages you, calls out your strengths, and challenges your weaknesses with belief, not shame. But most people walk through life with a critic as their coach, one who points out every flaw, every failure, every shortcoming, and rarely ever celebrates progress. That voice is shaped by years of conditioning, experiences, trauma, societal expectations, and fear. It becomes so ingrained that we don't even question it. We accept it as truth when it's just a habit of thought, and like any habit, it can be changed, but it won't change on its own. You have to choose a new way of speaking to yourself. You have to decide that the voice you hear most will be on your side, not against you. The way you talk to yourself in the dark defines how you walk in the light. It's easy to be kind to yourself when everything is going well, but it's in the moments of uncertainty, pain, and pressure that your self-talk matters most. Do you become your own enemy when life gets hard, or do you become your own ally? When you fail, do you say, "I'm a failure"? Or do you say, "I'm learning something powerful from this"? That difference in wording is the difference between quitting and continuing. It's not about blind positivity or pretending everything is perfect. It's about being honest without being cruel. It's about being realistic without being self-destructive. You can acknowledge that you're struggling while still affirming that you are strong enough to get through it. Your mind is always listening. The most consistent voice it hears is your own. That means you hold the greatest influence over your motivation, your confidence, and your identity. If you repeatedly tell yourself that you're not enough, eventually your actions will align with that belief. But if you start telling yourself that you are capable, worthy, and resilient, then slowly, even silently, your behavior begins to shift towards strength. The way you speak to yourself sets the tone for how you show up in the world. Your self-talk becomes your self-concept, and your self-concept becomes your life. Every word you speak, whether out loud or within your mind, carries weight, energy, and direction. Words are not passive. They create, define, and shape the environment you live in internally, which eventually reflects outwardly in your reality. The way you speak to yourself programs your brain to either take action or stay stuck. If you constantly tell yourself you're not good enough, not ready, or not capable, those phrases don't just sit in the background. They become commands that your subconscious follows. Your brain listens and responds accordingly. That's why the language you use matters more than you might think. You are not simply describing your life with your words, you are directing it. Think about how powerful just a single sentence can be. Telling yourself, "I always mess things up," becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy. You start to believe it. Then you act in ways that confirm it. You hesitate, you doubt, you hold back, all because of a sentence you repeated too often. On the flip side, saying, "I figure things out when it gets hard," builds mental strength. It sets a foundation of confidence that you carry into decisions, challenges, and goals. The words don't just reflect what's happening. They influence what happens next. They alter your expectations, which then change your outcomes. There's a reason high performers, elite athletes, and great leaders are intentional about their language. They don't allow careless self-talk to run the show. They correct themselves in real time. They catch a negative thought and reframe it immediately, because they know what they say in their minds becomes the lens through which they see the world. It determines whether a challenge looks like a dead end or a stepping stone. It determines whether failure feels like defeat or like feedback. Repetition of powerful language creates powerful belief, and belief is the engine of behavior. You can't consistently act in a way that contradicts what you deeply believe about yourself. So if you want your actions to change, start with your words. Declare the identity you want, not just the one you see in the mirror today. Speak from the place of your future, not your past. Don't say, "I'm stuck in this mindset." Say, "I'm in the process of growing into a stronger one." Don't say, "I always fail at this." Say, "I'm still learning, and each setback is shaping my comeback." This isn't pretending. It's choosing words that align with the person you're becoming. Words create mental patterns, and mental patterns become emotional realities. When you constantly tell yourself that you're not enough, that life is against you, or that you'll never change, you are setting emotional anchors that hold you in place. But when you begin to speak with intentionality, choosing words of hope, strength, and progress, you rewire your brain to expect better, believe deeper, and persist longer. The transformation begins not with a change in results, but with a change in how you describe your current moment and your future possibilities. You begin to plant seeds of resilience, grit, and growth with every sentence. There's a false narrative that constantly whispers in our minds. the belief that we are behind in life. It tells us that we should have accomplished more by now, achieved bigger things, reached a higher level. This voice compares our timeline to someone else's and makes us feel like we're falling short. But the truth is, you are not behind, you are becoming. Life isn't a race, it's a process of unfolding, learning, growing, and evolving at the pace that's right for you. No two paths look the same, and trying to compare yours to someone else's is like comparing the sunrise to the moon. Each shines in its own time. Becoming takes time. Growth doesn't happen overnight. Trees don't sprout in a day. Mountains aren't formed in a week. The person you're becoming, the version of you that you dream about, the one who handles adversity with strength, who moves with confidence, who speaks with clarity and leads with purpose. That version is being shaped every single day, even when you don't see the evidence. The days that feel quiet, where nothing seems to be happening, are often the most important. That's when the roots are forming, that's when the real work is happening beneath the surface. Just because progress isn't visible doesn't mean progress isn't real. Sometimes the most powerful becoming happens through what feels like struggle, delay, or failure. These moments don't mean you're behind. They mean you're being refined. You're building depth. You're developing resilience. You're learning lessons that can't be rushed or skipped. The pressure you feel is not proof of inadequacy. It's proof of transformation. You are not stuck. You are not late. You are not lost. You are in process. Becoming means embracing the journey, trusting the timing, and allowing yourself to grow through what you go through. We live in a world that glorifies speed and instant success. Social media shows us the highlight reels of other people's lives, and it's easy to believe that if we haven't made it by a certain age, we've missed our chance. But that belief is a lie. Some people bloom early, others bloom later, but all bloom in their own season. You are not here to follow someone else's timeline. You are here to become who you were uniquely designed to be, and that kind of becoming doesn't happen on demand. It happens in the silence, in the waiting, in the building of habits, and in the slow forging of character. What you see as a delay may actually be preparation. The struggle you feel may be sharpening your edge. The confusion may be creating clarity over time. You are not running out of time. You are right on time for your own path. The pressure to have it all figured out right now is a weight you were never meant to carry. Life unfolds one lesson, one step, one chapter at a time. Becoming is not a straight line. It's a spiral. You rise, you fall, you rise again. Each turn, each cycle brings you closer to who you are meant to be. Repetition is one of the most powerful forces in human behavior. It is the silent architect of belief, identity, and ultimately, destiny. The words you repeat to yourself every day are not just thoughts. They are instructions. They become scripts your brain begins to follow without questioning. Your subconscious doesn't differentiate between what's true and what's repeated. It simply accepts what it hears most and begins to operate accordingly. If you say something long enough, you begin to believe it. And once belief is formed, it becomes the foundation upon which your actions, emotions, and decisions are built. You don't become confident by accident. You don't develop mental toughness by mistake. These qualities are built through consistent internal repetition. When you start to say to yourself, "I am capable," even if you don't fully believe it at first, over time that phrase sinks deeper. With every repetition, it plants a seed, and if you water it daily, it begins to grow roots, reshape your thought patterns, and influence how you show up in life. It's not the intensity of the words that transforms you, it's the consistency. A single empowering thought won't change your life, but saying it daily, especially in moments of doubt, creates momentum that compounds over time. This is why negative self-talk is so dangerous. It's not just a fleeting thought. It's often a repeated message that slowly erodes your confidence from within. I'm not good enough. I'll never make it. This is just how I am. These are not truths. They are habits. Mental scripts that have played on loop for so long, they feel like reality. But they're not. They're just thoughts you've rehearsed, sometimes without realizing it. The good news is, anything learned can be unlearned. Anything rehearsed can be replaced. The process begins with intention. You must become conscious of what you're saying to yourself throughout the day. Most people don't even realize how often their self-talk is rooted in limitation. You have to interrupt the pattern. When you hear yourself slipping into old scripts, stop. Replace them with new language. Declare something different, even if it feels uncomfortable or unfamiliar. That discomfort isn't a sign of inauthenticity. It's a sign of growth. You are stepping into a new identity. And that identity is built, one repeated truth at a time. Repetition is not just about affirmation. It's about alignment. When your words begin to align with your values, your goals, and your vision for your life, you begin to walk in sync with who you're meant to be. Over time, those words no longer feel like something you're forcing. They feel like something you own. They become second nature. They become your truth. Your repeated self-talk becomes your internal compass, guiding your actions even when your motivation is low, even when fear is loud, even when failure shows up. This is the power of repetition. It takes something external, spoken words, and internalizes them into something unshakable, belief. Every lasting change begins in the mind before it ever shows up in results. People often look for external strategies, systems, or shortcuts to create transformation, but the real breakthrough starts internally. Your mindset is the command center of your life. It is where decisions are born, fears are faced, and courage is activated. Before anything becomes a reality in the physical world, it must first exist as a conviction in your inner world. Your thoughts lead to emotions, your emotions influence actions, and your actions create outcomes. If your thinking is broken, no amount of hustle can truly fix the direction you're headed. You can work hard, stay busy, and chase success. But if your mind is wired for doubt, limitation, and fear, you'll constantly sabotage your own potential. Transformation doesn't begin when you reach a goal. It begins the moment you shift how you think about yourself and your capacity. Your identity fuels your behavior. If you believe you're weak, you'll act hesitant. If you believe you're not worthy, you'll avoid opportunities. If you believe success isn't for you, you'll never fully chase it. The mind is like a thermostat. It sets the temperature of your life. If you want to raise the quality of your life, you have to reset the internal settings of your thinking. You don't just upgrade your habits. You upgrade your mindset. Every thought you entertain is a seed. Negative, fear-based thinking plants weeds that choke out growth. Empowering, truth. Centered thinking plants the seeds of courage, belief, and persistence. The way you think about problems determines whether you see them as walls or windows. The way you think about failure determines whether you use it as fuel or let it become fear. The way you think about yourself determines whether you play small or show up bold. It all starts in the mind. You have to become the gatekeeper of your thoughts. Not every thought deserves your attention. Not every idea is worth believing. Thoughts are suggestions, not commands. You can learn to examine them, challenge them, and replace them. And when you do, you start building a mindset of intention instead of reaction. That's when power begins to shift. That's when you stop being driven by insecurity and start being led by vision. When the mind transforms, your entire world starts to move differently. Opportunities become visible. Courage feels natural. Persistence becomes automatic. The way you speak, walk, and decide all begins to align with a new inner blueprint. Most people wait for external circumstances to change before they allow themselves to think differently. But that's backward. You don't wait for confidence to show up. You generate it through thought. You don't wait for peace to arrive. You create it through how you interpret your reality. The mind doesn't just respond to the world. It creates the lens through which the world is experienced. When you transform that lens, everything begins to shift. Not because the world changes, but because you see it with renewed clarity, strength, and purpose. 21 days may not seem like a long time, but within that window lies the potential for deep and lasting internal change. The mind is a creature of habit. It thrives on patterns, repetition, and consistency. When you speak to yourself intentionally for 21 days, consciously, purposefully, you are doing more than just creating a new habit. You are laying the foundation for a new identity. The brain begins to rewire itself based on the inputs it receives. It doesn't judge those inputs, it simply adapts. So when you begin to feed it consistent thoughts of strength, worth, confidence, and clarity, your entire system begins to respond to that new language. Your posture changes, your emotional responses shift. The way you walk into a room, approach a task, or face a fear begins to take a different shape. The beauty of 21 days lies in its simplicity and structure. It's not so far away that it feels impossible, and yet it's long enough to disrupt and reprogram internal scripts that have been looping for years. Most people underestimate how quickly the mind can adapt when given consistent input. They assume that change must take years, that belief takes decades to build, that confidence is reserved for the few. But neuroscience and experience say otherwise. The brain is pliable, it is responsive. And when you commit to consistent positive self-talk for 21 days, you are sending a clear message. I'm not a prisoner of my past voice. I'm the author of my future one. During these 21 days, resistance will come. Old thoughts will try to return. You'll feel silly saying things like I am capable or I am strong when your circumstances haven't changed yet, but that's exactly when it matters most. Speaking to yourself like the person you're becoming, not the one you've been, is what creates the shift. This is not about pretending. This is about practicing truth before it's comfortable. This is about acting in alignment with your future self before you fully feel like you've arrived. Your words become the bridge between who you are and who you're stepping into. Every day you repeat empowering self-talk. You reinforce the neurological pathways that support courage, self-discipline, focus, and resilience. It's not just what you say, it's how often you say it. The repetition carves new grooves in the mind. Where there was once a reflex of doubt, you begin to build a reflex of determination. Where you once hesitated, you begin to take action more naturally. Over these 21 days, what starts as awkward and unfamiliar becomes normalized. Your inner critic begins to quiet. Your inner coach begins to rise. What once felt forced begins to feel authentic. And when the voice inside your head shifts, the rest of your life follows. What you practice daily becomes what you live permanently. This is why the 21-day commitment matters. It's not about quick results. It's about long-term rewiring. Your external world may not change overnight, but your internal atmosphere begins to elevate with every day you speak life instead of limitation. Through consistent, conscious repetition, you become fluent in the language of your best self. This new language empowers your thoughts, fuels your actions, and becomes the catalyst for lasting transformation.